feather. The 4 ribbons, which are red, yellow, black, and white, represent the color of the 4 races on earth and the 4 directions. The rattle, or drum, is a welcome for the ancestors to join in the gathering with the living. Everyone sits in a circle because everyone is equal. This is a talking feather. It's not a real eagle feather, it's a dyed feather. Since I'm not Native American, it would be illegal for me to own one. And should I find one in nature, I would turn it over to the Longhouse. The blue jay feather, which represents the Cherokee elder who taught me, is also included on this. As you're holding the talking feather, please say something you are grateful for, a kindness you did for another person this week to make their lives better, or you may opt to stay silent. And rather than pass the feather around, I gave each of you a feather. Once you're done, just say aho. And so if any of you would like to do that, you're welcome to now, if you'd like to participate. Okay.
And I am grateful for this evening's meeting and for all of us to be here together.
I'm
Thank you.
grateful for life.
Grateful for peace.
I'm grateful for understanding and cooperation.
Okay. May we all know peace as one. My mother grew up on Koinonia Farms in Americus, Georgia, which was located on the Blackfoot land. My grandparents founded Habitat for Humanity there. The first Habitat houses were built on Koinonia, and I spent my summers there painting houses. We would often find arrowheads there. President Carter grew up in Plains, Georgia, which is just 12 miles away, which is also on Blackfoot land. His very first act of office as president was to lift the ban on Native Americans being able to speak their language and openly worship. I'd like you to think about this, since this happened in 1976. Most of us in this room were alive when this oppression was finally lifted and the religious rights were restored. It's my hope this council will appreciate this invocation, since we are all living on Native land, as evidenced by the many Indian names we have around us. As part of the oppression of our government, Native Americans were not allowed to own white man businesses. They were only allowed to profit from entertainment and gambling. Hence, we have the Four Winds Casino. Their children were taken away to government orphanages where they were not allowed to speak their native languages. Many of the children were abused and died in these orphanages. Some were adopted out, but not allowed to know they were Native American. At the end of this, I am passing out small bags known as the giveaways, and the Native culture teaches sharing. I hope your takeaway is respect, gratitude, kindness, sharing, inclusion, and peace. Aho.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This time we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Jones, the roll call, please. Councilmember Davis, I know I saw him. Councilmember Lee,
Present.
Councilmember Warner. Present. Councilmember Wax. Present. Councilmember White.
Present.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan.
Present.
Councilmember Hammond.
Present.
Vice President Niskoski.
Present.
President McBride. Present. 8 present right now, but I know Mr. Davis is here. There are no reports from the subcommittees. This time, we'll turn over to special business. Clerk Jones, will you please give Special Resolution 2307 a reading? 2307, A special resolution of the Common Council and the citizens of the city of South Bend, Indiana, honoring Toy Vila for more than 36 years of exceptional and impactful work as a construction manager and land surveyor in our community, and for his quintessential leadership and teamwork as an employee of the city of South Bend. Thank you. Do we have presenters?
Yes, myself and Councilwoman White, would you like us to approach
Yes,
this podium,
please.
please? Thank you. Sheila Niezgotsky, 4942 Scenic Drive, South Bend, Indiana.
Karen White, 1912 Melbourne Way, South Bend, Indiana.
So we're going to read Bill number 2307, which is a special resolution number 5003-23. A special resolution on behalf of the South Bend Common Council and the citizens of South Bend honoring Toy Villa for more than 36 years of exceptional and impactful work as a construction manager and land surveyor in our community, and for his quintessential leadership and teamwork as an employee of the city of South Bend.
Whereas Toy Villa has been a fair but firm presence in the city of South Bend, Indiana, through his involvement in engineering and surveying projects more than 36 years, and whereas Toy professional associations recognize participation include the American Society of Civil Engineers, the American Public Works Association, and several certifications with the Indiana Department of Transportation. And whereas Toy's career has included positions not only in the public sector with the city of South Bend, but also in the private sector with Clyde Williams and Associates, where he provided the survey for the Generations Drive development. And whereas the list of completed projects, accomplished tasks, and overall public service Toy has passionately fulfilled bled into every square foot of the city. The most observable are the two-way convergence projects, Studebaker Demo, city fire stations, Kennedy Park, green infrastructure, Kovaleski Stadium, now Four Winds, fiber optic signal connect with Metronet, and the remodel and rehabilitation of the Morris Performing Arts Center.
And whereas Toy was also instrumental in the redevelopment of several underutilized areas, leading to economic growth and job opportunities that draw the growing population and tourism of South Bend. These developments include, but are not limited to, the Howard Park reconstruction, the Football Hall of Fame, downtown transportation facility to First Source and Doubletree, NIMS Parkway, Ignition Park, Catalyst 1 and 2, Frederickson Park, multi-purpose trails along the river, Cafe Navarre, Ireland, and South Michigan Street shopping centers, and the Memorial Hospital campus. And whereas Toy facilitated key steps for environmental remediation, making the redevelopments possible, including leachate and methane control systems, cleanup and industrial debris, brownfield mitigation, and providing the transparency necessary for protecting public health. Whereas, while Toy was not spending time with his family or working on his golf game, he sat on the South Bend Heritage Board and the Special Events Committee, in addition to volunteering countless Saturdays to contribute labor and guidance to city projects, Back the Bend, and equivalent city programs. And whereas the city engineer, Kara Boyles, expressed, "It is hard to imagine our team without Toy, as he has been such an integral part of our success. His dedication, dependability, and expertise have been invaluable, and he has truly been a right hand to me. Toy's presence and contributions will be deeply missed, and we wish him all the best in his future endeavors. Now therefore be resolved by the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, as follows. Section 1. The South Bend Common Council proudly honors and thanks Toy for his 36 years of exceptional and impactful work as a construction manager, and a land surveyor in our community, and for his quintessential leadership and teamwork as an employee of the City of South Bend.
Section 2, the Common Council also recognizes and thanks Toy's wife, Diane, and children, Matthew, Adam, Justice, Manny, and Nick, for sharing Toy with the community, even in the times they would have preferred him to be home. The Common Council wishes Toy and Diane all the best in their retirement. Section 3, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its adoption by the Common Council and approval by the mayor. Signed this day, which was the 27th of February, but we had to change that because he was not available. So signed this day, the 13th of March 2023. It is our honor to stand before you to share this resolution for an employee, but not an employee, a servant who has served this community with distinction.
Thank you. At this time, Toy. Toy, would you please come and give some words?
Kara, would you like to say a few words?
Dust in here. Okay, come on up here. All right, so thank you, members of the council, all of our colleagues and friends who are here tonight. Kara Boyles, City Engineer, 13th floor. First, I want to thank all of you, especially Councilwoman Nisgodsky and Councilwoman White for sponsoring this bill, Council Attorney Bob Palmer for his assistance as well, and our project engineer, Becca Plants, for her contributions and her insights that made this resolution possible. Today is bittersweet as we gather to celebrate your retirement. You're one of our most valued city employees. After 36 years of dedicated service to our city, our beloved construction manager has now retired. Throughout his tenure, Toy has been a cornerstone public servant to our community. His passion for his work, his unwavering commitment to the people of our city has been truly exceptional. His knowledge and expertise in construction management have been invaluable to our team, and his contributions have left an indelible mark on our city. In his own words, Toy described his role with the city as his dream job. And when asked what his least favorite project was, he said he loved every single project he's worked on. And I wish there was a way I could bottle up this passion. But it's not just his skills and his knowledge that we will miss. He is an amazing person with a kind heart and a generous spirit. His warmth, empathy, and willingness to help have endeared him to all of us, and it's no surprise that everyone loves Toy. Toy's dedication to his job and his community has been nothing short of inspirational. He's worked tirelessly to ensure our city's infrastructure is safe, reliable, and accessible to all. He has often put in many extra hours and willingly volunteered his time, even when he's not asked, for the betterment of our city. He was always willing to lend a helping hand and would say yes to any task or project that needed his expertise. His unwavering commitment to his work and his community is a testament to his character and a model for us all. As he moves on to the next chapter of his life, I want him to know how much he will be missed. His contributions to our city will be felt for years to come, and his legacy will continue to inspire us. Tonight, we are here to say thank you. Thank you for your hard work, your dedication, your unwavering commitment to our city and its people. You have truly made a difference, and we're all better for having known you. Also, we promised to pay sample this year, so now that you don't work for us anymore. But we wish you all the best in your retirement, and we hope that you will stay in touch. Your presence will be missed, but your impact will never be forgotten. So congratulations.
Toy, would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, I wish to thank the council for this resolution and also my fellow co-workers who I worked with so many years. Like I said, I've enjoyed every minute of my time with the city, and I've always said that I loved it, and I still do. I always look for the challenges every day. There was a new challenge. It was not like you came to work and do the same dull thing every day. There was always something that cropped up, and we had to take care of that situation. But that's what made me come to work every day. So I really want to thank you all for this resolution.
Thank you. Well, I want to say thank you for your service. I've been knowing you for many years as a colleague and a friend, and I really appreciate you are a class act, and your professionalism and your willing to work with anybody and people and follow up was like none other. So I really, really congratulate you and salute you for your retirement, and you definitely will be missed.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other council? Council Davis.
Absolutely. Toy, I thought you was the coolest guy in the county city building. I did, when I found out you could play softball.
Many years ago.
Yeah, you were good then, man, and I tried to be good, but you guys was really doing it out there. And then I thought that you were extra cool when I found out you buy your fish from the same place I buy mine from on Fridays. So I know you're the man. But no, actually, I've had quite a time with you. Every time I call, you're available. Didn't matter what time it was, when it was, but you were always on the spot. I appreciate you. I appreciate your service to the city. I wish there could be more that we could do for you. You gave so many years, and I'm in debt to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We all are.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I would like to add my thank you and wish you and your family lots of joy and happiness in your retirement.
Thank you.
Just want to thank you for your service. I don't believe we've had much opportunity to work together in my few years here, but your reputation precede yourself, and it's clear that you're not somebody who's going to drift off into the sunset, and I'm sure that you will continue to give back to the community in many ways, and I want to wish you many years of health and happiness and success in all your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Councilor Lee.
Yes, I just want to say that, Toy, I have watched you, for many years. I've been on the board for the South Bend Heritage Foundation, and just your knowledge and your way of getting things accomplished, and how much people respect and listen to you has really meant a lot to me as a younger man watching you. You have the personality that we need to mimic, and so you probably didn't even know that people were watching you the way that we were watching you. For people to stay at a job for 36 years is unheard of, and to say as you're leaving, I loved every minute of it, that's even more remarkable. But most importantly, what people don't understand, when you have a passion and you love something so much that you want to see it done in excellence, sometimes our family may not get all of our attention. So I think we should take a moment and give his wife and family a hand for lending him to us, city. And now you're going to have to be with them 24 hours a day, and we'll see how that work out. But thank you. Thank you so much for being a great community leader. God bless you.
Thank you.
think everyone has already said it, but I just extend my gratitude to you. Thank you for being such an exemplar public servant to our community. When you hear the name Toy Villa, it just gives you comfort and assurance that the job is being done well and we are cared for. So thank you very much for all the years and devotion that you've given to our city. May Godspeed.
Thank you.
Won't repeat much, to say thank you and enjoy retirement and golf and sunny days. And you know, our city owes you a great debt. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your kind comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you. This time I will open it up to see if there's any comments from the public. With that being said, thank you so much. Thank you for your service again. Thank you, council, the sponsors. We appreciate it. We're going to take a picture.
And I believe that you have to make a motion to accept the resolution.
So moved.
If anybody dare. It has been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, the roll, please. Councilmember Davis? Aye. Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski?
Aye.
President McBride?
Aye.
9 ayes. Thank you. You want a picture?
Yeah, and Clerk Jones, do we have the resolutions? Are they ready yet so he can do the
I can
picture?
go and check while you all take pictures.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Okay. You want to do a picture? I think I signed them last week. I think I signed them last week. I would now like to entertain a motion to resolve into the Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Been motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion's carried.
The Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council's meeting where bills are given a second reading and public hearing. I wish to share with you that bills that will be given a second reading and public hearing have been given a first reading and set for a committee meeting and public hearing prior to this evening's meeting. In addition, you will hear from the chairperson of the committee where the bill was discussed and the results of their discussion. If the proposed ordinance is a zoning ordinance, a report from a staff member will be given. In all other situations, the formal presentation on the proposed ordinance will immediately follow the committee report. The formal presentation shall be untimed. Clerk Jones, would you please give Bill 01-23 a second reading?
0123, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition for special exception for the property located at 2621 Mishawaka Avenue, South Bend, Indiana, 46615, Councilmanic District Number 3, in the City of South Bend.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, there is, Chair. This came before zoning and annexation this afternoon and comes to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Is the petitioner present? I ask that you state your name and address and share with us key points regarding the bill that's before us.
Good evening, Angela Smith, zoning administrator with the City of South Bend. Office is located on the 14th floor of this building. The property is located at 2621 Mishawaka Avenue, right near the intersection of 27th and Mishawaka. It used to be, just gonna go through here. It used to be the Family Pet Health Center for many years. As you can see, a very kind of closed-in, focused building. The property owners are looking to open it up and make it a restaurant on Mishawaka Avenue. They are primarily starting with ice cream, I believe, but are looking to expand to other things. I believe I already heard expansion plans earlier in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals last week, so we're excited to hear about that. Mishawaka Avenue is a mix of commercial uses and a range from single-family to neighborhood center uses and all the services in between. This property will fit in well with the Mishawaka Avenue businesses, and this comes to you from the Board of Zoning Appeals with a favorable recommendation. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the petitioner is here as well.
Petitioners, would you like to have anything to say? Okay.
I'm all right.
All right, thank you. Council members, would you have any questions for the petitioners?
What district is this going in again? I'm just joking, it's my district. Welcome to the 3rd District.
Anyone else? At this time, we'll go to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 01-23?
There is no one in the virtual public that's expressing interest in speaking in favor of this bill.
Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition?
There is no one in the virtual public that's expressing interest to speak in opposition as well.
At this point, the public hearing on Bill 01-23 is now closed. Council members, would you like to make any statements regarding this bill?
I should have made it my question, but it won't be to the petitioners, to the zoner, the zoning representative. How you doing?
Good, how are you this
I'm
evening?
doing well. I was just thinking, I was just talking to my counterpart to my left, and I said that Mishawaka Avenue, I love Mishawaka Avenue. I like the corridor. Are there any, like, new design specs for that area? Mishawaka Avenue is a great investment, but it's dated. And I was wondering if we have started working on that sort of, like, thing.
I believe that River Park is one of the neighborhood plans that's being worked on right now by the planning team.
Okay.
And that would include Mishawaka Avenue. And so I know that there is work being done. As always, we work hard with the Vibrant Places grant that was released. And so I know there's several businesses on Mishawaka Avenue who have reached out to us about the Vibrant Places grant that the city's holding that helps with facade improvements and
Yeah.
activation of the business front. In fact, I've been touting it hard to these petitioners, so we always look forward to when businesses take advantage of that. And as you've seen with Western Avenue, that can have a real impact on the whole corridor as a collective. So we expect to see some good improvements there in the next few years.
Absolutely, and I guess I'm glad that Western Avenue is a beacon of hope for you. I just really want to know about the design specs being an internal conversation with, the plan. You don't have to answer that.
I think it's
But-
just getting started, and
This
I'm
is
usually
getting
not
started.
brought
So
in
remember
until
that
I
for
get to
me.
zoning.
Well, just remember that for me. Design specs for buildings.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 01-23.
Move that we send it to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All right, it has been motioned and second. Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax, Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
9 ayes.
All right, Bill 01-23 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you.
All right, Clerk Jones, would you please give Bill 05-23 a second reading?
Public hearing 0523, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana. The first street to be vacated is that part of Old Bartlett Street lying south of the New Bartlett Street roundabout between Michigan Avenue to the east and the vacated section of Main Street to the west. The second street to be vacated is that part of Old Bartlett Street lying south of the New Bartlett Street for roundabout, lying east of Michigan Street and west of St. Joseph Street.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, Chair, this was heard in the Public Works and Property Vacation Committee. This afternoon, it was given a no recommendation as there was not a petitioner present to present the bill.
All right. Attorney Palmer, since is there a petitioner here today? All right, come on in, come on up. I ask that you state your name and address and share with us key points regarding the bill that's before us.
My name is Bob Hayden. I work for Jones Beecher Rufinski, 325 South Lafayette. I'm here on behalf of Memorial Hospital, Beacon. This is kind of a last piece of the Bartlett Street roundabout that was completed in 2015, and this task never got completed, and the transfer of property never happened between the right-of-way and the Beacon property. With the construction going on at the Beacon for the tower plans, there's some AEP work that needs done, and this, excuse me, for the easements needed for that, the property needs to be transferred back to the hospital so they can get the proper easements in place as part of the, so that it's not city property anymore, it's now Memorial property, so.
All right. Council members, do you have any questions? It's pretty simple. At this time, we'll go to the public portion. Clerk Jones, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 05-23?
There's no one from the virtual public that is expressing interest to speak in favor of Bill 0523.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
There is no one expressing interest to speak in opposition as well.
At this point, the public hearing on Bill 05-23 is now closed. Council members, would you like to make any statements? If not, I will entertain a motion regarding Bill 05-23.
Make a motion to send 0523 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Clerk Jones, please call roll.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax, Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis, Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
9 ayes.
All right. 05-23 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Clerk Jones, would you give Bill 06-23 a second reading?
0623, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending maximum salary and wage of Executive Assistant Director of Special Projects for the City Clerk of South Bend, Indiana for the calendar year 2023.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, there is, Chair. This was heard this afternoon in Personnel and Finance and was sent to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Is the petitioner present? I ask that you state your name and address and share with us key points regarding the bill that's before us.
Dawn Jones, City Clerk, 4th floor, offices on the 4th floor of the County City Building. I'm asking for this addition, or $3,500, to go towards the cap for this position to make the position more attractive when advertising it, so that we can get someone or with the skill set that's necessary for this position.
Okay. Council members, do you have any questions for the petitioner? Councilwoman Lori Hammond?
Thank you. Don, did you do a, just kind of a research or a search to see what the average wage for such a position is bringing in Indiana?
Yes, I did a research for that, and it varies, you know, and then I also go by, the position has been posted, and I go by the people or the applicants, and I look at the skill set of the applicants, and the skill set that we wanted, we were not getting. So that's why we had asked for additional funding for this.
Is there any other council members that, Vice President Niskowski?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I had asked Mr. Willis about the hiring bonus because it was stated earlier that, I mean, I understand needing to get your wages up so that you can hire talented people, but if we're going to raise this to $49,466, I just had a question about the $4,000 hiring bonus, because that means that this just turned into like a $7,000, I believe, or $8,000 increase. So could you give me some background on if that is something that's in all of the salary ordinances, just for our knowledge?
Not all the salary ordinances, but for the clerk's salary ordinance, it is at her discretion to offer a hiring bonus up to $4,000.
All right, thank you.
Any other council members? If not, we'll go to the public hearing portion of this. Clerk Jones, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 06-23?
There is no one from the public that is expressing interest to speak in favor of this bill.
Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition?
There's no one virtually, or I don't see present, that is wishing to speak in opposition as well.
At this point, the public hearing on Bill 06-23 is now closed. Council members, would you like to make any statements at all? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Make a motion to send 0623 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
President McBride?
Aye.
9 ayes.
All right. Bill 06-23 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Clerk Jones, would you give Bill 08-23 a second reading?
0823, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending ordinance number 10894-22, which fixes maximum salaries and wages of appointed officers and non-bargaining employees of executive departments of the City of South Bend for calendar year 2023, to establish one new full-time position and amend the maximum salaries of 2 existing full-time positions.
All right. Is there a committee report?
Yes, there is, Chair. This was heard in the Personnel and Finance Committee and was given a favorable recommendation to the Committee of the Whole.
Is the petitioner present? I ask that you state your name and address and share with us key points regarding the bill that's before us.
Kyle Willis, City Controller, 12th Floor County City Building. Bill 8-23 seeks to establish the new full-time position for our city attorney. Currently, the city attorney now is part-time, will be retiring soon, so the new position will be a full-time position. The amending salary caps were for the Diversity and Inclusion Officer and the Executive Director of Human Rights. That was to get their salary levels in line with other city leadership salaries, and also to be comparable to other cities with the same position.
All right. Council members, do you have any questions? Councilwoman Lori Hammond?
Thank you. I did research Indiana and the standard salary for this type of position based on the job description that I received. And this surprisingly is below most of what I saw. So I'm absolutely in favor of raising it. I think we need a qualified candidate for predominantly the diversity compliance officer. The concern is this has been kind of a hot topic conversation department, and I'm wondering if we have plans in place of putting some additional oversight on this particular position to make sure that it just handles a lot of the grant dollars that go out and those types of decision-making, spending of dollars has come before us with a lot of questions. So I'm wondering about the oversight for that position. Does that falls under Caleb, does it not?
I think it falls under Senator Kennedy with legal. I'll ask her to speak to it.
For diversity and inclusion?
What was that? Sorry, it's mayor, the mayor.
That's directly under the mayor?
Yes.
All right, any other council members?
Somebody's online.
Good evening, council members. Caleb Bauer, Executive Director of Community Investment. Yeah, just wanted to clarify that that position does not report to myself, and it's not part of community investment.
All right. Any other council members like to have any questions? Yes, Councilwoman Rachel Thomas Morgan.
Is there, that position is posted, is that correct? And the diversity and inclusion officer?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, sir.
Chair. Councilman Davis?
Yes, sir. Thank you for your presentation, sir. Over the last probably maybe year or so, there have been a number of surveys being ran. And what are our residents saying about the services that we're delivering to them? Do you know anything about?
Like city services?
Yes, sir.
I'm not aware of any surveys that have been conducted.
No?
I'm not.
I
But
was under the impression that we had city service, like a survey at some point. I'm off? No? Help, somebody? Okay, well, my fault.
I know we asked for one.
Oh, we asked for one? Is that what that was? Okay, that's why I'm asking the question. Thank you, Sharon. I'm particularly interested in what residents are saying about the services that we are rendering. There's a turnover rate, right, in our city departments, and I think we're 2 times the national average, or like 24%, if I can remember correctly. I think the national average is like 12%. And so we keep raising salaries. You keep saying that this thing is going to be sustainable. And this is not to you. I'm not laying this at your porch. I'm not. But we do these things over and over again, and we continue to get less results out of the departments that we are funding. So internally, there has to be some mechanism that's kind of off. So I think a survey probably would do us well in knowing what positions are doing what, unless your department does that itself. But I really believe that, the discussion with the constituency base, the residents, would be awesome for our city. Because it just seems like we keep taking money and throwing the money at the problem. And I don't think the problem is the money. I think it's something else.
yeah, so something definitely look into. I think so. The IT department may have had this survey conducted. So I'll look into it.
Please do. I think it would teach us all something.
All right, anyone else? At this time, we'll go to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone from the public that is wishing to speak in favor of Bill 08-23?
There's no one from the virtual public that is expressing interest to speak in favor of this bill.
Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition?
There's no one present wishing to speak in opposition as well.
At this point, the public hearing on Bill 08-23 is now closed. Council members, if you'd like to make any other comments?
Make a motion to send 0823
Hold on, Mr. Wax.
I'll go to the parliamentarian.
Oh, man, come on, talk.
This is time to make comments.
Okay, so I'm just going to reiterate my comments from earlier. I'm okay with the city attorney position. I think that makes sense. I'm just not ready to support an increase to the diversity, compliance, inclusion officer and the human rights position. I think especially with the diversity officer position, I think that we've, as been expressed by others, there's a real confusion as far as the role. It's not clear. It's been a dissatisfactory result so far from that office, and I don't think the solution is to throw more money as opposed to try to figure out what we need to do, what the goals are, how we're going to accomplish those. And I don't think just throwing money at it is a solution. And therefore, I would support just stripping out the other two positions and going forward with the city attorney position. And to that end, I make a motion to amend the bill to remove the two changes for the second and third position while retaining just the new city attorney position.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Councilmember White? Nay. Councilmember Thomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski?
Nay.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Nay.
Councilmember Warner?
Nay.
Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
President McBride?
Nay.
5 nays, 4 ayes.
I make a motion to send Bill 823 forward to full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Councilmember Thomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Nay.
Vice President Niskoski?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
No.
Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wax?
Nay.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
President McBride?
Aye.
5 ayes and 4 nays.
All right. Bill 08-23 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Clerk Jones, would you please give Bill 09-23 a second reading?
0923, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, for budget transfers for various departments within the City of South Bend for the year 2023.
All right, is there a committee report?
Yes, this was heard this afternoon in Personnel and Finance, and it was given a favorable recommendation to the Committee of the Whole.
Is the petitioner present? And he is. And I ask that you state your name and address and share with us key points regarding the bill that is before us.
Kyle Willis, City Controller, 12th Floor, County City Building. Bill 9-23 seeks to transfer funds within the Venture Parks and Arts budget. There was a classification error in the budget process, so we're just seeking to just correct that and have the funds placed in the correct fund for Venture Parks and Arts.
Council members, do you have any questions for the petitioner? And we talked about this in committee as just something put in the wrong place, and we
Yeah, I
have to
mean,
make sure.
you know, with these with the budget spreadsheets, hundreds, maybe even thousands of lines, I mean, Yeah, I think it's bound to happen at some point. You hate that it will happen at some point.
All right, we'll go to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 09-23?
There's no one in the virtual audience that's expressing interest to speak in favor of Bill 0923.
All right, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
There's no one wishing to speak in opposition as well.
At this point, the public hearing on Bill 09-23 is now closed. Council members, would you like to make any statements?
Yeah, I would like to say that's phenomenal effort that you catching it, because you have to go back through those sheets and some of those math equations to figure that out. So I think it's exceptional that you found that. Human error happens all the time.
Yeah, it does, it
There's some
does.
discipline there.
I appreciate the DDFs that work on these budgets,
Yeah.
year-round and catch these things.
Is there anyone else that'd like to make any comments? If not, I will now entertain a motion.
Motion to send to the full council with favorable recommendation.
Second.
Clerk Jones, there's been a motion and a second. Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Okay. Bill 09-23 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Clerk Jones, would you give, first of all, we got to vote to accept the substitute?
Yes.
10-23.
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye. Excuse me.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
9 ayes.
All right, now that we've accepted it, Clerk Jones, would you give substitute Bill 10-23 a second reading?
1023, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and city services operations for the year 2023 of $729,545 from the General Fund 101, $255,785 from the Parks and Recreation Fund, number 201, $15,000 from the Gift Donation and Bequest Fund, number 217, $449,000 from the Law Enforcement Continuing Education Fund, number 220, $80,000 from the Central Services Fund, number 222, $41,000 from the Code Enforcement Fund, number 230, $40,000 from the Police Federal Drug Enforcement Fund, number 299, $34,895 from the Professional Sports Convention Development Area Fund, number 413, $800,000 from the Morris Performing Arts Center Capital Fund, number 416, $30,000 from the 2017 Parks Bond Capital Fund, number 471, $551,957 from the Consolidated Building Fund, number 600, $5,000 from the Parking Garages Fund, number 601, $75,000 from the Solid Waste Capital Fund, number 611, and $150,000 from the Sewage Works Capital Fund, number 642.
All right. Is there a committee report?
Yes, there is, Chair. This was heard in Personnel and Finance Committee this afternoon, and it was given a no recommendation. The committee needed some questions answered in reference to the $250,000 appropriation.
All right, as a petitioner present, I ask that you give your name and your address for the fourth time tonight.
Kyle Willis, City Controller, 12th floor, County City Building. This bill, well, first of all, do you want me to address the 250 first? Or?
You can.
That's up to you, the Chair.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. The $250,000 that that was discussed earlier is actually, and I misspoke in the committee meeting. I spoke that it was new, a new ask, but it's not new appropriation. It is, and it was an existing appropriation back from 2019, I think, with a larger pot of money. And as the years went forward, that balance continued to roll forward. Those funds were actually used in a housing grant similar to what is being asked to be applied with currently, which is the new housing construction grant that's being funded with ARP funds. So this isn't new money. This is money that was already existing. It lapsed last year, so the money came back to the general fund. So when that happened, DCI caught it and asking for us to reappropriate those funds to use with the ARP program.
So was that the $250,000 money that was given to neighborhood association to develop a duplex, and they didn't develop it, and it was earmarked for that, but it didn't?
Not sure, but I would defer to Caleb Bauer, Director Bauer, who's online, who could speak to that.
Good evening, council members. Caleb Bauer, Executive Director of Community Investment with offices on the 14th floor. I apologize I wasn't able to make it to committee this afternoon. I was traveling. But yes, so those funds were committed to a neighborhood association for housing development. And so they had been encumbered in a contract that originated in 2019. We're still hopefully working with that neighborhood association, and I think it's been a challenge for them to move forward with a project. But what we were hoping was, as part of our ARP implementation and the $2.5 million in housing financing funds that were appropriated, we put out an RFP seeking proposals to build new single-family homes and potentially multifamily homes as well. And we received 6 proposals requesting over $4 million, so more than the funds made available as part of that ARP appropriation. So we were looking at existing funds for housing development to see, was there any way for those to be redeployed on projects that are ready to move forward? And then we could continue to work with the neighborhood association, potentially come back in the future when they're ready for completing a project.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought it was. When we heard that number, it registered in my mind. Okay, all right. Any other things you want to make in your presentation?
The new additional appropriations for 2023. There's appropriations in for professional services to prepare 2022 financial reports. Code enforcement has appropriations for new office cubicles. There's a revenue sharing payment owed to the county per interlocal agreement that's in place with St. Joseph County. Also, there's for venture parks and arts, there's an appropriation there for Ames equipment to better handle parking tickets with the Office of Violations Bureau. Then there's also a new appropriation for Public Works. They have some capital equipment that I think need to be purchased there. Then there's additional purchases that are supported by grants or revenues outside of our structural revenue. Police have capital, supplies, and I think a vehicle purchase that will be reimbursed either by federal or state grants. And then there's an appropriation for community investments to fund stipends for climate action ambassadors that reach out to the community to get their responses and to help update their ongoing climate action plan with the Office of Sustainability. And then the remaining reappropriations for majority of it is for venture parks and arts projects that need funding that needs to be that was appropriated in 2022 needs to be reappropriated today, or not today, but for 2023. And there's Public Works asking there for, I think, a vehicle purchase and some more capital equipment. And then there's a project with Central Services for parking lot that will help alleviate the flooding and cars and vehicles getting stuck on their property over there.
All right. Council members, do you have any questions for the petitioner? Councilman Davis.
Thank you, sir. What neighborhood, I didn't hear what neighborhood association we were referring to about the 200,
I think it's far northwest.
Far Northwest.
far northwest?
Yes.
And what's preventing them from getting the support that they're looking for?
Well, they haven't been able to get the development together. They were supposed to develop it, and they haven't been able to get it. But they are going to continue to work on it.
Sure, there is a reason why, and that's what I'm asking. What's that? They don't have enough funds to capture a developer, or they can't pay for the services. There's a problem with it in executing it.
I don't know.
What is that problem?
That is a Caleb Bauer question.
Sure. Yeah, I think housing development can be challenging. Finding a home builder that's ready to move forward with new construction, developing construction plans, and so on and so forth. And so I think those have been challenges that the association has faced. Again, like I said, we're continuing to work with them, and when they have a project that's ready to move forward, I think we'll be in a position to deploy funds potentially from other sources to support them. So it's not a matter of taking the funds away. It's a matter of we have projects that are ready to move forward, and we're hoping to fund those. We'll continue to work with the neighborhood association on capacity building and making sure that their duplex project can move forward in the future too.
So I agree with you, but I think what I'm trying to get at is how do we make that happen? I like their project. I like the fact that they're building inside of areas that are begging for that sort of development. What is it that the city can do to support, again, go back to my word, support the development? Do we need to change some legislation for water hookups? Do we need to make sure, how do we make that happen? Are we having that discussion, or are we just moving along? How do we incentivize them building within their own neighborhood? I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I
think those are.
Oh, sorry, Caleb.
I was saying, I think those are great points, Councilman. One piece, after this contract was signed in 2020, as the neighborhood association was working through the process, we did engage as part of the Incremental Developers Alliance. We did engage with consultants that have worked with the neighborhood association to assist them as they move through the development process. So those consultants have been paid with city funds to help provide that guidance. I think it is challenging to go for any organization to build their first home. I think 466 Works a great CDC in our community. If we talk to Pastor Taylor, I think it was something like 4 or 5 years after the group's existence before their first home was completed. So we know that it takes time, energy, and commitment, and we're grateful for that from the Far Northwest Neighborhood Association, and we'll continue to work with them into the future.
Sure. I'm not asking for an answer. I'm not, because clearly no one wants to answer the question. If we have consultants that's working with them, then they know what the problem is. I'm asking for that answer. Just not tell me about or theorize that they're going through a problem. I know they're going through a problem. That is clear. What is the problem? Thank you.
Like I said before, the problem is not having a home builder lined up to begin the construction.
So we can't help them with that? We can't help them with that? I'm sure we can incentivize a home builder to come in there.
The funds are used to incentivize the developer to build the home.
Absolutely. But there's costs that the home builder has to incur to build the home. So his margin of profit gets smaller as it relates to building within the city. I said don't answer, because I can keep going with this.
Okay, I won't answer.
Well, thank you. Yes. Yes, Councilwoman Thomas Morgan.
I think what we've seen over the past couple of years is a suite of incentives that we've put together as a city to help to incent vacant land infill. And so the reappropriation, if you will, of the $250,000 that's being requested here is really just to support that ongoing effort. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? If not, we'll go to the public portion of, public hearing portion. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Substitute Bill 10-23?
There's no one from the virtual public that's expressing interest to speak in favor of Substitute Bill 1023.
All right, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
There's no one wishing to speak in opposition as well.
At this point, the public hearing on Substitute Bill 10-23 is now closed. Council members, would you like to make any statements, or, yes?
Thank you. I appreciate the explanation on the 250,000. However, it still gives me pause and concern as to what we're doing here. So we just appropriated $2.5 million out of ARP funds for new housing projects, and we told the public that the city will partner with them in developments, and no surprise, when you're offering free money, there's a lot of people that lined up to take it. The question is what the city's role in these projects are, and the projects that the city is looking at and considering right now, many of them come in where the city's going to be paying as much as close to 50% of the development for a private project that will not be owned by the city, that'll be owned by a private entity. And I don't know if that's a direction that we want to go. Now, it's one thing with the $2.5 million that we put out of one-time funds, we put in for, those were special money coming from the federal government to use creatively, which we did, and we allocated for that. But now we're saying that that's not enough, so we're going to find other sources. It's not that we're just reapplying old appropriated funds, because as Mr. Bauer explained, that we're going to use that for these other projects now, but when this neighborhood association is going to be ready to go forward, we'll find new money for that. So it's clear that at this point, the city does not see the $2.5 million as the project. It sees that as just part of this bigger idea where the city is going to be spending significant money towards private development. And I think there needs to be a broader discussion with how we measure the public-private role in these projects, and I'm not ready to go forward at this point with that.
Is there anyone else? I just would want to say that, you know, being on the end of working with the neighborhood association, and in neighborhood associations want to improve their neighborhoods and want to take on the challenge of creating affordable housing. As we all know, it is a challenge, and sometimes it does sounds good in theory, but when it comes down to trying to figure it out and get it done, it's a little bit harder, a little bit challenging, more challenging than you anticipate. But what I do like the fact is that this was an opportunity for people to see really how creating affordable housing is not as easy as what people think it is, but then giving them more time to be able to get the capacity to be able to do it. I sat in the meetings, I met the consultants, we went and looked at houses, we looked at manufactured houses, we looked at stick-built houses, we looked at all kind of different ways to build it, and it's a challenge. So again, this was an opportunity for a neighborhood association to do that, and the opportunity is not being taken away, but because the funding was there and was not used, they're going to be able to come back when they're ready to do it. So
I think, Chair, if I am, the discussion that I had earlier, there's two different things, and I know, Mr. Willis, I'm definitely not putting you on a hot seat, and I don't know if Caleb or who's on the phone. But I thought with this $250,000 appropriation, we already had approved this in the ARP funds. And what happened is that this money was not encumbered over when the transition of Mr. Parker to Mr. Willis. And with the $250,000, there's it needs to be on one line item and not two separate entries. So the council, from my understanding through these ARP funds, this was already approved, and that this $250,000 that was in the housing development under ARP funds, we already approved, but it was being encumbered. And maybe I'm being mistaken from this $250,000, and I don't know if that's what my understanding was about the housing money that we had appropriated initially.
What Mr. Bowers said was that there was more proposals than the $2.5 million that we already appropriated. So the city's looking for additional funds so that they could invest in more of those projects, or potentially other projects, but they're seeking funds above the $2.5 million. So they found $250,000 that was in a different budget, previously allocated for a different housing project, which wasn't being used, so it went back to the general fund. So, but since at some point there was $250,000 that wasn't
Correct.
spent on housing, they're adding that on top of the $2.5 million for the ARP allocation. But then what they're doing is they're taking it twice. They're saying, well, that was previously allocated for housing, so we're going to put it for housing now, but when that neighborhood association comes back, we're going to tell them, well, we told you we're going to have $250,000, so we'll give it again. So what the city's trying to do is they're trying to take out of the general fund the same $250,000, they're going to spend it twice.
No, I don't think that's.
I think, if I could,
If I could just. Appropriate it again, but they're going to come back and
exactly
they're
what
going
it
to
is.
say, we already told them that they could.
That is too what it is. That's the count. That's how that happens. Where else does it happen at?
Hold on.
To happen if you want us to assist with housing.
No, I mean, what? No.
Point of order, hold on.
No.
We're gonna just give Mr. Warner an opportunity to
Eli.
respond.
So I agree with Mr. Wax's statements, and if we get to that point, we'll get to that point. But the reality is, this is $250,000 of a $350 million budget, money that was already allocated for housing and is now going to go and support housing again and just be added into that pot of $250,000 to go towards the RFPs that are there.
Oh, okay, but then if I could, you're agreeing with my, not with my policy belief, but you're agreeing with my explanation of what those funds are?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so as long as we're clear that
Yeah.
this is new funds, this isn't what we appropriated, and then they're going to come back and come back for more housing funds later.
These are housing funds, they're still going to go to housing.
But let's just be clear on.
Different pot of money.
Right.
Let's just be clear on
From-
what we're doing here today, and it's not just, these are monies that we already said. This is,
Absolutely. I just want to make it clear. It is, you're absolutely right, you're saying, but we also, the money was appropriated because it was appropriated for the far northwest development. So what you're saying, but it was appropriated because it was done for that housing purpose.
Councilwoman.
Yes, Mr. Wax, I just want to address the one request for a discussion. I'm happy I'm getting ready to schedule several committee meetings, both in IT and community investment, and the agenda is getting larger by the day, but happy to include in that a discussion as you requested.
that sounds great. I just,
Councilwoman Laura Hammond, please.
To somewhat mirror what the concern is, when we appropriated those dollars, we knew where that went. This new money that is being asked to be appropriated, we're not certain who will end up with that money because the neighborhood is not ready to take on this build. So as a council, we should know specifically where that money is going, what build is getting this $250,000. Because when we appropriated it last year, we were given that information. Now we don't have it.
Councilwoman.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And to your point, I believe that Caleb said that they had numerous RFPs out there for building for infill residential housing. For me, we all know that that is a major concern. It's of our residents. All of us up here have sat before and seen what we could do to help improve those. Like we did the sewer lateral program, we eased up for people that are building homes for low to moderate income, you know. But, and I understand the point you're saying, but these dollars are still, there's people out there that are ready to build, is what I heard. So we're still going to use the money to help with residential infill within the city limits of South Bend. I wish that housing development would have. I remember we had a very long discussion here about the alley vacation process, about the sewer hookups, the water hookups. It took a lot of time and effort from this council when we discussed that to prime them to get to that. And I'm still going to be optimistic that they'll be ready to move forward with that project because it's so important. But I still think that so are other housing projects. And this dollars are still going to help with residential infill that is so needed within our community. So I just think it's appropriated in the manner that it was intended for. It's just going to be a different home built
So
somewhere.
they could be able to come before us and tell us where we put that money.
I don't think that's not.
So I would request
I don't
that.
think that's a problem. I think they could.
I think we should request
Okay.
that, so we know where the funds go.
Yeah, we just request that they come back and tell us when, and then it doesn't eliminate the neighborhood association from being able to build their duplex, and we're gonna work very, very hard to get that done. All right? I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill.
I move that we send 1023 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Councilmember Davis,
You know, I put my hand up, I said chair like 3 times, and then, you know, you just kept going with it. And Sharon even tried to stop you.
Okay, but,
And
Councilman
Sharon
Davis-
tried to stop you. You don't want to recognize me,
Okay,
Sharon?
Councilman Davis, we have 5
I'm just asking a
minutes.
question.
We
You
have
don't
had
want to
5
recognize
minutes.
me?
It ain't that. It's
Then what
we-
is it then?
We have given 5 minutes. We've taken a lot longer to discuss this, and I think we've come to a conclusion. So it's time for us to move on to the next part. And they put a motion in, and now it's time for us
That's the
to
type of
move
ball
on.
we're playing up here?
Huh?
That's the type of ball we're playing up here?
It's time to move on.
Okay. Go ahead.
Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Councilmember Davis,
Nay.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax, Councilmember White, Councilmember Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
With the understanding that we will get the information requested. Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
President McBride. Aye. 7 ayes.
All right. Substitute Bill 10-23 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. I will now entertain a motion to rise from the Committee of the Whole and report back to the full council.
So move.
Second.
All right, there's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passed.
The full council is now back in session. This is the portion of the meeting where bills are given a third reading and action is taken regarding bills that were heard during the committee of the whole. Clerk Jones, will you please give Bill 0123 a third reading? 123, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition for a special exception for the property located at 2621 Mishawaka Avenue, South Bend, 46615, Councilmanic District Number 3 in the City of South Bend, Indiana. Thank you. Councilor Lee, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole?
Yes, Bill 01-23 was heard in the Committee of the Whole, and it comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 123. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, the roll, please. Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wax? Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 0123 has been adopted. Clerk Jones, will you please give Bill 0523 a third reading?
523, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana. The first street to be vacated is that part of Old Bartlett Street lying south of the new Bartlett Street roundabout between Michigan Avenue to the east and the vacated section of Main Street to the west. The second street to be vacated in that part of Old Bartlett Street lying south of the new Bartlett Street roundabout, lying east of Michigan Street and west of St. Joseph Street.
Thank you. Counselor Lee, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole?
Yes. Bill 05-23 was heard in the Committee of the Whole, and it comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 5-23.
Move for the passage.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, the roll, please.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. Bill number 05-23 has been adopted. Clerk Jones, will you please give Bill 06-23 a third reading?
623, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending maximum salary and wage of Executive Assistant Director of Special Projects for the City Clerk of South Bend, Indiana for the calendar year 2023.
Thank you. Counselor Lee, is there a recommendation for the Committee of the Whole?
Yes. 06-23 was heard in the Committee of the Whole, and it comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 06-23.
Move for the passage of Bill 06-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, the roll, please.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 06-23 has been adopted. Clerk Jones, will you please give 08-23 a third reading?
0823, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending ordinance number 10894-22, which fixes maximum salaries and wages of appointed officers and non-bargaining employees of executive departments of the City of South Bend for calendar year 2023 to establish one new full-time position and amend the maximum salaries of 2 existing full-time positions.
Thank you. Counselor Lee, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole?
Yes. 08-23 was heard in the Committee of the Whole, and it comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 08-23.
Move for passage. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, the roll, please.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Nay.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Nay.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Nay.
President McBride.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you. Bill number 08-23 has been adopted. Clerk Jones, will you please give 09-23 a third reading?
0923, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana for budget transfers for various departments within the City of South Bend, Indiana for the year 2023.
Thank you. Counselor Lee, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole?
Yes. 09-23 was heard in the Committee of the Whole, and it comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 09-23.
Move for passage.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, the roll, please.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. Bill number 0-923 has been adopted.
Clerk Jones, will you please give substitute Bill 10-23 a third reading?
1023, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and city services operations for the year 2023 of $729,545 from the General Fund Number 101, $255,785 from the Parks and Recreation Fund Number 201, $15,000 from the Gift Donation and Bequest Fund Number 217, $449,000 from the Law Enforcement Continuing Education Fund Number 220, $80,000 from the Central Services Fund Number 222, $41,000 from the Code Enforcement Fund Number 230, $10,000 from the Police Federal Drug Enforcement Fund Number 299, $34,895 from the Professional Sports Convention Development Area Fund Number 413, $800,000 from the Morris Performing Arts Center Capital Fund Number 416, $30,000 from the 2017 Parks Bond Capital Fund Number 471, $551,957 from the Consolidated Building Fund Number 600, $5,000 from the Parking Garages Fund Number 601, $75,000 from the Solid Waste Capital Fund Number 611, and $150,000 from the Sewage Works Capital Fund Number 642.
Thank you. Councilor Lee, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole?
Yes. Substitute Bill 10-23 was heard in the Committee of the Whole, and it comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 10-23.
Move for passage.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, the roll, please.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Nay.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Nay.
Councilmember White, Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
President McBride,
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 10-23 has been adopted. This portion of the council meeting for resolutions is where the council hears bills filed as proposed resolutions. The title of each proposed resolution is read by the city clerk. A report from the committee chairperson of the standing committee to which the bill is referred to for an advisory review and recommendation is then given. During the public portion on each proposed resolution, members of the public are invited to address the council. We ask that you please give your name, address, and comments on the bill. If you have any questions, they will be addressed by the presenter during their rebuttal. Each member of the public is limited to 5 minutes, with those speaking in favor going first, followed by those in opposition, then a 5-minute rebuttal for the presenter of the bill. Clerk Jones, will you please give Resolution 23-03 a reading?
2303, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, designating certain areas within the City of South Bend, commonly known as 2652 Jacqueline Court, South Bend, Indiana, 46614, and 3161 Youngs Court, South Bend, Indiana, 46614, economic revitalization areas for purposes of a 6-year real property tax abatement for the Robert Henry Corporation.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Eric Lavich, Director of Growth and Opportunity within the Department of Community Investment with offices on the 14th floor of this building. Council members, before you for your consideration are 3 tax abatement resolutions. The first one is for an industrial development real property tax abatement on the far southwest edge of town. It's for the Robert Henry Corporation. The Robert Henry Corporation is a construction and utility contractor, a union contractor at that. They've been a South Bend institution since 1974. They currently have their operations and headquarters on South Francis Street in the Howard Park neighborhood. What they would like to do is move their operations to the far southwest edge of town on 2 different parcels. This resolution before you it concerns the 2 parcels that you see highlighted on the screen. After reviewing the petition, Robert Henry Corporation would qualify for a 6-year abatement. As I mentioned, they're seeking to transfer their operations. They will be building a new truck maintenance facility, as well as new offices and a training facility for their employees. The petitioner has committed to invest $6.5 million in their own funds to build these facilities, and total about 33,000 square feet. Current taxes on the two properties combined is about $830. On the screen, you can see the tax estimates that we had compiled. Throughout the 6-year abatement, the estimated taxes that will be paid is nearly $600,000, and the estimated taxes abated is about $1 million. And then on your screen, you can see the bottom 5 bullets are the projected tax revenues, actual taxes estimated to be paid after the abatement concludes. The petitioner is here to answer any questions that you might have and to talk about the project, but I'm happy to answer questions as well.
Thank you. At this time, I'll turn to my colleagues and see if you have any questions for the petitioner. Councilor Davis.
Thank you. At what point, great idea. I applaud the move, right? But question about philosophy and delivery within your department. How often does the discussion come up about how we can start filling in some of the gaps within the city? This is going to the outskirts. Have no problem with it. Great idea. If it works for you, great. Still happy to have you. But we miss like so much of an opportunity. One thing comes to mind right now is South Olive Street, all the way over to Walnut. That entire area it's industrial, old industrial. Not all of it, 100% of it, but a great deal of it. And so, in order for the city to begin to grow within itself, I would like to understand or believe: are we pushing development in those directions, or are we going to clear it out and then push development? I would like to know what the philosophy is happening right now within the department.
Thank you for your question. We employ all of the tools that we have to spur development in those areas. They are priority areas. For example, the Vibrant Places Matching Grant Program, on those key corridors in South Bend offer a matching grant up to $50,000 in the priority corridors. Western Avenue would be an example. As you look down towards Sample, those properties that are city-owned, we advertise them. We want people to come in and build, and invest in those communities, provide jobs there. Olive in particular, there are businesses there that, if you look through the history of what this council has approved, there's, whether it's, those are businesses there that have, taken advantage of some of the incentives that the city offers. And, we're excited to be able to work with anyone if they do want to build in those particular areas.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Nizagowski.
Is this for questions?
Yes.
So the decision, I just want to be clear, the taxes paid that you showed up on that screen is a result of their investment, which is a growingly, I would say, industrial or light, and I don't know, commercial over in that district, because that's where the Pure Green Farms, Bob Frame Plumbing is. So I guess two things is that tax base is growing, the South Bend tax base, and it's due to the investment that he's making in granting this tax phase-in or this tax abatement.
And to add to your comment, the estimates that we put forth do not take into account any expected increases in assessed value. Our model basically takes into consideration what their investment is, and we assume that based on their investment, we usually think about 80% of what their investment might be would probably be the assessed value, but it's purely a speculative measure on our part. So to your point, as you see more investment, in this particular industrial park, those property values will probably be higher than what we've estimated them to be, and thus we'll have a higher tax revenue.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Again, we talked about it in the committee. Right now, the current taxes are $833, and even after the first year, we make some money off of it, but by the time it's paid 20 years from now, or let's even look at 10 years from now, it's $1.6 million. Correct?
Correct. That is correct, and then as you can see at the bottom, we just kind of multiplied it out for those extra years. Also, one thing that was not mentioned during committee, well, it was mentioned that their operations are moving from the Howard Park neighborhood, or they would like to move their operations from the Howard Park neighborhood out to this area. These estimates don't take into account any additional revenues that might come in from development of the current Robert Henry Corporation properties in Howard Park. It's a very desirable neighborhood, and, we're excited at the prospect of some development going on there as well.
So many times people say, you're giving out these tax abatements, you're giving out these tax abatements, it's free money. But it actually is more of an investment, and it allows for a company to grow and develop, and in the end, because of the partnership with the city ends up with more taxes, but it gives the businesses an opportunity to grow. So, thank you.
Councilor Thomas Morgan? You can make a comment now. I'll open them for both.
Thank you, President. I just want to thank you for remaining in South Bend. And I do believe it is a win-win. You get to build in a new location of the city that is currently vacant and expand and grow your business. And you leave a part of the city that is open for redevelopment, a very desirable part of the city. So I congratulate you in this new phase in your family's company, and thank you for your investment.
Councilor Warner?
Thank you. I echo those comments. I'm an IBEW member. I've worked with your employees before in the past and do a great job. I've been to your facility. I think picked up a meter base about 20 years ago, and I drive by. It hasn't changed much in the last 2 decades. And I know that tax bill is a lot higher than you guys pay for the garage now. And I think it's a win-win for you. You guys outgrew it when the Transpo garage was there. That made sense. You got very big trucks, bucket trucks, and pulling in all kinds of line trucks. And I get calls from neighbors about the trucks, and it's not really the same neighborhood it was 40 years ago. And so I think it makes sense, and creates another opportunity there in the neighborhood. And thank you for your investment and what you guys do.
Thank you. Anyone else? With that, I'll turn to the public. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of Bill 2303? Clerk Jones, did you see anyone in the virtual audience?
There's no one in the virtual audience that's expressed an interest to speak on this.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition of Bill 2303?
There's no one in the audience wishing to speak in opposition of Bill 2303.
Thank you. I'll turn back to council.
Just want to say thank you. It's always really exciting to see a company both grow and then choose to stay in South Bend. And, your company is a wonderful part of the South Bend community, both as an employer and just your employees. They all are part of our, core city, and it's great to have you grow and stay. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Niskansky.
Yep, and I would like to say thank you so much for your investment in the 6th District. Welcome. I'll be excited to see that facility when it's up and built, and thank you so much for your investment. And as a third-generation, family-owned union business, it's just exciting, and this is made for people like you to be able to come in and make that initial investment, help the city, it helps you. It's just a win-win situation for all of us, so thank you.
Thank you. With that, I would like to
move for adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, the roll, please.
Vice President Niskoski?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
President McBride?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. Resolution 2303 has been adopted. Clerk Jones, will you please give 2309 a reading?
2309, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the City of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 536 South Main Street, South Bend, Indiana, 46601, an economic revitalization area for purposes of an 8-year real property tax abatement for Soma Capital LLC.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
There is, President. This came to community investment this afternoon and comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Petitioner, please state your name and address.
Eric Lavich, Director of Growth and Opportunity within the Department of Community Investment on the 14th floor of this building. Having gone through this abatement 3 times now, I don't want to bore you with the details, but this is a confirming resolution for the apartment building that is on South Main Street. It's been vacant for, since 2021. The petitioner is seeking an 8-year abatement for which they qualify. They're investing over $2 million to completely rehab the building. You can see on your screen a rendering of what the project will look like upon completion. What they're doing is they're converting the building from 8 apartments into 12 units, with 3 of those dedicated to low and moderate income households. The 8-year abatement, you can see the numbers on the screen in front of you. Just as we have been discussing, current taxes on this property are about $5,200. You can see the numbers throughout the life of the 8-year abatement. Taxes to be paid will be about $130,000, where the abatement will result in savings for the taxpayer of about $210,000. Once you calculate those out past the terms of the abatement, you can see after 15 years, for example, just under using current rates without assuming any increases in assessed value, we're looking at $430,000 in tax revenues, much to the comments that council has made in the previous bill. This doesn't take into account assessed value increases. So as we look at the exciting projects going on the south side, whether it's the Monroe project, the 2 buildings that Real America will be building through the Diamond View Apartments project, it's a very exciting time on the south side of downtown, and this will just be a jewel piece in that development there. A representative of the development firm is here to talk about the project if you have any questions.
Thank you. With that, I'll turn to council. You have any questions for the petitioner? Councilor Hammond.
How many affordable units are in this again, Mark?
The petitioner has committed to provide 3 of the 12 units to the low and moderate income threshold that is standard for this type of abatement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I do. How soon will you guys get started on the renovations of this building?
We're finishing up some drawings. We're still revising contractor bids, trying to get to a price point that allows us to commence. We hope to finish that in the next 60 days or so. Yep.
With that, I'll turn it to the public portion. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of Bill number 2309? Clerk Jones, you see anyone in the virtual audience?
No, I don't see anyone in the virtual audience that's expressing interest to speak.
Thank you. Same said in opposition.
No one wishing to speak in opposition as well.
Thank you. I'll turn back to council for final comments.
Sure, I have a lot to say, but you know what? Good job, guys. I really enjoy that, that 2nd district. Good move, right? Yeah, I'm for that. But one thing that is really confounding me here, after paying attention to what we're doing in the last several bills, as it relates to housing, this city, and this is what I was going to say earlier, Kenneth, it was just a comment, people don't trust it. That's why they feel the way that they feel about the $250,000. Now, out of everything that we have done, that has to be the lowest figure out of a tax abatement or some sort of agreement the city has made. And undoubtedly, those dollars were going to a poor part of the area of the city. Those people were probably black, right? You had those two things that's glaring you in your face. And every other thing that has come before us, whether it's a tax abatement or this, is going to people who are white. They're white. They have businessmen. They have money. And the city has opened their arms fully for the development to happen. Everybody's able to answer questions about what's going on, what's happening, why, time span, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm saying is that we said no for a startup, somebody that really needed an opportunity and a chance, somebody that deserved the opportunity and chance. And undoubtedly, they're black and poor. And we are like giving away opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to people who already have it. $250,000 matched up against millions of dollars over the last few bills. That's what I was trying to get across to you earlier. I'm not against this. I would never step in front of development. But what I will say is that there's inconsistencies in how we're looking at things and what things are going. There's a huge inconsistency. $250,000 would not have mattered that much, but it would meant the world to that street.
Can I respond?
If I could
Hold on
just
one second. I didn't know
bet.
someone was muted. I'm sorry, who is online, and you need to state your name and address, please?
Caleb Bauer, Executive Director of Community Investment with offices on the 14th floor. Just to kind of address that comment, the previous $250,000 that we were discussing, that would have been a direct funding subsidy towards the development of housing, whereas these last couple bills we've been talking through are abatements on future owed taxes for these developments. So we're talking the city paying money directly to the Far Northwest Neighborhood Association to support new housing development versus in these two cases, the city is just foregoing future tax revenues to unlock these developments. I think there is a difference there. So when we're looking at those dollar amounts, a direct subsidy is different than a tax abatement.
It's still subsidy. It's still welfare. It's governmental welfare. It's the same thing. Regardless of what form you put it in, it is the same thing. They're never going to walk around with a briefcase full of $250,000 bills, or whatever that number is. They're not going to do the same thing. It's just taken off on paper. I know what's going on, Caleb. You should know what's going on as well. I'm saying that the $250,000 was minuscule compared to what is happening with these other bills. That's the only thing I'm saying. That's why I asked the gentleman who presented, what was the philosophy? He can answer the question. I'm done.
Mr. Davis,
Counselor Lee?
but the $250,000 is not
You're not
taken
going to
away.
make me feel any type of way or whatever you say. I just explained it to you.
No, I'm just telling you that
I
I don't
just
think
explained
you,
to
I
you,
don't
it's
think you were
government
listening.
welfare both ways.
I don't think you heard that he said when the neighborhood association gets ready, it'll be money.
We are
that
helping
money will be
everybody else
available.
get ready. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Everybody else is getting ready.
They're
Everybody's getting help from the city to get ready. I said that those people needed to get.
That $250,000 has been there to help them to develop.
So how we take it back then?
We didn't take it back.
We did take it back.
He
That's what
said
Leon
if-
was trying to tell you.
when
He
they
took it
get-
back.
When they get ready, it'll be, it expired, actually.
You don't get it, sir.
The contract expired, but they're gonna allow them to, when they're ready, to come back, and that $250,000 will be there.
Absolutely, you don't get it.
Well,
Any other comments? Counselor Thomas Morgan.
Thank you. Mr. Glavich, there's no need to apologize about presenting this 3 times. This is an exciting project for our downtown. And as these 3 bills reflect, over these past 4 years, the city has seen unprecedented growth and expansion in business and in housing. So I thank the developers for making this investment, for taking it up, not waiting for a messiah to come and develop this, but to decide amongst yourselves to make this investment and to help increase our housing stock and beautify our city. Thank you for your investment.
Thank you. With that, I'll turn to council. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion for adoption.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, the roll, please. Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski?
Aye.
President McBride?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Resolution 2309 has been adopted. Clerk Jones, please read Resolution 2310.
2310, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, designating certain areas within the City of South Bend, commonly known as 7468 Warden Parkway, South Bend, Indiana 46628, an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 10-year real property tax abatement for 7468 Warden Parkway LLC.
Is there a committee report?
Sorry, President McBride. Yes, this came to Community Investment Committee this afternoon and comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
Eric Lavich, Director of Growth and Opportunity with offices on the 14th floor of this building. Before your consideration is a declaratory resolution for tax abatement for a company who is looking to move its Midwest operations from Illinois to South Bend. We're very excited about this opportunity. It's a California company, and for many reasons, South Bend was a desirable location for them. They're seeking an abatement to build a 94,000 square foot facility in the far northwest section of town near Tire Rack. They're looking to invest $8.2 million in building this facility, and this is only phase one of what we hope to be a second phase of two phases. The second, which would expand the more than double the facility which they plan to build currently. As I mentioned, the petition qualifies for a 10-year abatement. As we've been talking, the taxes on these properties are currently very low. This particular property has an annual tax bill of less than $1,000. In the first year alone, under this abatement, the taxpayer will pay more than that, about $1,350. During the 10-year abatement, as you can see, this property will yield $1.2 million in tax revenue for the city. The estimated abatement is about $820,000. And as I've done prior, you can see the calculations for expected taxes after the abatement period ends. And just to stress again that these are simply estimates based on current tax rates and the assumption that property values would stay constant and would not increase. But as you can see, we're very excited. This is just, having a new business come in and invest in our city is wonderful. And a representative from Coast Southwest is here to talk about the project and answer any questions if you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello again, council members. My name's Olivia Simo, located at 7468 Borden Parkway. I'm the Midwest General Manager for Coast Southwest and also part of the third generation family ownership of the company.
All right. Like it. Are there any questions for the petitioner? Councilwoman Hammond.
Thank you. And thank you for your investment in South Bend. The only thing that I would ask is there is phenomenal job growth, and you're offering some amazing wage potential here. As I look at the minority employees, if there could be a stronger focus on just bringing in some additional minority and women employees amongst that 43 potential new employees, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely, Councilwoman. I will say when we filled that out, those were only employees we currently had in Indiana. So of the 3 we had in Indiana, 2 of them were women.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, Councilor Lee?
What do you guys distribute?
Yeah, so we're a distributor for chemical ingredients that go into personal care products. So really, anything you see on the back of your shampoo bottle is something that we'll carry. About 75% of what we do is in personal care. The other 25% is in food, pharmaceutical ingredients, and then some household cleaning ingredients as well.
And you guys plan to start your hourly wage at $31.07 starting out, and then increase it by the 10 years to $44.31. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's an average. Most of the positions are salaried. So taking a range of positions that are both salaried and hourly, yes, that would be the average.
All right, first district, and $31 an hour, we're very happy about that. So thank you for coming to the first district.
Thank you. At this time, I would open it up to the public. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of Resolution 23-10? There is no one in the virtual public that's expressing interest to speak in Resolution 2310. Thank you. The same in opposition? There is no one wishing to speak in opposition as well. Thank you. With that, I'll turn back to council. Councilor Wax.
Just want to say thank you for considering South Bend and your expansion, and I'm excited about this as being just part one of your moving as much of your operations as possible here. So want to wish you success now and long into the future.
Thank you. With that said, Councilor White.
I would just like to echo the other sentiments in regards to thanking you for staying and thank you for wanting to come to South Bend and the level of business and employees that you bring with you. We're very excited and look forward to, again, phase 2 as well.
Thank you. With that said, council, what's your pleasure?
Move for adoption.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones. Councilmember Lee.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wax.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond.
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis. President McBride.
Aye.
9 ayes. Thank you. Bill number 23-10 has been adopted. Bill's on first reading. Clerk Jones, will you please give Bill 1123 a first reading? Yes. 1123, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 1330 High Street, Councilmanic District Number 3 in the City of South Bend, Indiana. Thank you. I would like to entertain a motion to send Bill 1123 to South Bend Zoning BZA for 4/3/23 and to zoning and annexation for public hearing and third reading on April the 10th.
So moved. Second?
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion's carried. Clerk Jones, will you please give Bill 12-23 a reading? 1223, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 439 Dundee Street, Councilmanic District Number 6 in the City of South Bend, Indiana. Thank you. I would like to entertain a motion to send Bill 12-23 to South Bend ZA on 4/3 and to zoning and annexation for public hearing and third reading on 4/10.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion's carried. Clerk Jones, will you please give a reading to 13-23? 1323, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 1602 South Michigan Street, Councilmanic District Number 3 in the City of South Bend, Indiana. Thank you. I would like to entertain a motion to send Bill 13-23 to BZA for 4/3 and to zoning and annexation and public hearing and third reading on 4/10.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion's carried. Clerk Jones, will you please give a first reading to 14-23? 14? 1423, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 6 by adding Article 15, Section 694 through 6-108, inclusive to require landlords and tenants to participate in bed bug remediation.
Thank you. I would like to entertain a motion to send Bill 14-23 to Health and Public Safety for public hearing and third reading on March 27th.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion's carried. Clerk Jones, will you please give Bill 1523 a first reading?
1523, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, 1100 block of Corby Boulevard being a part of Corby Boulevard as shown on the Indiana Department of Transportation right-of-way plans for State Road 23, RW Code 3786, designated number 9133615, project number STP S050-007, dated December 19, 2011, and being situated in the west half of the northwest quarter of Section 6, Township 37 North, Range 3, East, Portage Township, City of South Bend, St. Joseph County, Indiana.
Thank you. I would like to entertain a motion to send Bill 15-23 to Public Works and Property Vacation for public hearing and third reading on March 27th.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion's carried. Is there any unfinished business at this time?
Yes,
Counselor Hammond?
thank you. With the assistance of Mr. Palmer, I did file on APRA and got the information regarding the parking garages that the city currently owns and manages. Over the 5 years of information that I received, 2018 to 2022, the 5-year loss on those structures operationally was $360,292.05. And this does not include the largest portion of capital improvements for those structures. This was a concern when the bond for the 2 new parking structures was attached to the other improvement projects for the neighborhoods, and I was pretty clear on that. So as we review, or I have reviewed these documents, and I would be happy to share them with anyone on the council, we are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. And for the 2 new structures, because current Beacon employees receive free parking, we would be required to, even though we still do not have a signed agreement with Beacon, but we would be in a position to have to supply free parking. And we are already losing significant amount of dollars. We know that free is never free. Somebody will always have to pay for that. Secondly, we want to be able to maintain safe, secure, well-lit, and well-maintained parking garages. I would like to just acknowledge the fact that we lost one of our parking garage security guards, and I pray for him and I pray for his family. But this is a significant undertaking for the city. These losses have to come out of the general fund. And I don't believe that the residents of South Bend, number one, understand the extent of the loss and the amount of money being paid into these structures. But secondly, they don't understand what is about to happen with these 2 new parking garages. It is also a question how we can afford to do these projects, but then we are putting off some of the things that the community is calling for the loudest. such as the rebuild of Potawatomi Pool. So I would just once again like to stress very loudly my objection to the bond for those 2 new parking garages.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? With that, I'll move on to new business.
I do, President McBride. I notice on the agenda for the Board of Public Works for tomorrow, there is an agenda item to amend the consulting agreement for the consulting firm for Bex Lake until December 2031. So, 2000.
For Bex Lake, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, December 31, 2023. So I am asking for an update in regards to the scope and what is happening and the extension of the amendment, as well as update on Cherry Street project.
Okay, thank you. I will have that. Clerk Jones, if we can make sure that we have an update for Bex Lake and the Cherry Street project update for next council.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor.
And I did reach out to the administration
Thank you.
with my concerns.
Counselor Wax?
Thank you. I just want to give a brief update from redevelopment commission meeting this past week. So it came up in the context of spending on houses, but the main portion of that meeting discussed the city redevelopment commission has a bunch of scattered site properties that they own, and they put out a request for proposals for investors to come in and propose different developments. And while none of them are, finalized, and the city has to go back and forth and figure out which ones they're going to go through, and that process is still early on. Some of those proposals are extremely exciting, including some developers that have experience getting the low-income housing tax credits, and some of the proposals were for as many as 50 units was one of them. There was another one that was 20-something units, and they'll hopefully be able to go in with a much smaller investment from the city. Most of it would be coming in either from the developer and from the state, and it's just something really exciting that potentially we have in the future. Some of those may just be the first step in what could hopefully be a string of these projects going forward. So I think that's a really positive update for everybody.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? No? With that, I will turn it to the privilege of the floor. Individuals who wish to address the council must state their name and address, their residential address. Individuals have 3 minutes. The maximum time for this portion shall be 30 minutes. Individuals shall not be permitted to address topics which the council has heard previously tonight, and the council president may assign a topic raised by the individual during the privilege of the floor to the appropriate council member, and/or request the city clerk to contact a member of administration for a review of the topics and respond by the next scheduled council meeting. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, I'm Rhonda Richards, 1020 Clover Street, South Bend, Indiana. I just have a point of order question about one of the things that you passed earlier. On 1023, it was a substitute, and it was the second reading, and then you passed it. And I understand the public people talked on, you had the opportunity to speak for the second portion and stuff. But since it was a substitute, my point of order question is, was there ever a first reading on it publicly, since it was substituted?
Yes, ma'am.
And when was that?
There's a process that takes place. Well, actually, I would have our parliamentarian answer the question for you.
A bill that comes for first reading and is given first reading it can be a substitute introduced after that first reading.
Okay.
And just picks up then with the normal
With the
process of
process.
second, third
Okay,
reading.
that's what I thought it probably was. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding clearly.
No
Thank you
worries.
for your time.
Well, no, I appreciate that. That's all you had? That was an easy question. I appreciate that. Is there anyone, Clerk Jones, you see in the virtual audience?
No, there's no one in the virtual audience that's wishing to speak.
Thank you. With that said, this meeting is adjourned.